Our film begins with a Russian army officer named Armkov, who is imprisoned due to his disobedience to orders and his political stance against Russia's ruler. A Russian officer comes to him and offers him freedom in exchange for carrying out a mission. Armkov agrees, and the officer hands him a paper detailing the mission. He explains that the missile cases mounted on vehicles belonged to the Russian army, but the Germans took control of them. Armkov's mission is to retrieve these missiles. At the same time, Russian army officers interrogate a German prisoner named Belos, who knows the location of the missile-launching weapon. They convince him to help them find it. Meanwhile, the officer introduces Armkov to the team that will execute the mission with him, providing a file for each member that outlines their strengths and weaknesses. The best soldiers in the Russian army are assembled for the mission. Armkov requests a translator to be part of the team. Afterward, Armkov gathers his team and briefs them on the mission. They prepare their weapons and equipment, board a military plane, and parachute down to their designated landing zone. The Germans learn that Russian soldiers have landed in the forest and mobilize quickly with their weapons. As Armkov's team parachutes in, they land separately from each other and attempt to regroup. The German soldiers arrive in the forest, leading to an intense sniper battle. Armkov quickly reaches a safe spot before the Germans see him and enters the forest with his team. They find two other teammates and sit down to prepare their weapons. Next, they move toward another group of their soldiers who landed far away. They spot one of their team members hanging from a tree by his parachute. This soldier is the German prisoner Belos, who is accompanying them to guide them to their objective. One of the soldiers attempts to cut the parachute with his knife, but the translator, Rainer, warns them that the Germans are closing in. The soldiers rush to cut the parachute, causing Belos to fall from the tree. They rush to help him, but his arm is broken, rendering him unable to move. Rainer urges them to cross the river while she stays behind to distract the Germans. The Germans find the parachute in the tree, and Rainer sees them. She starts screaming loudly to lead them away from the river. She runs through the forest, diverting their attention, while they chase after the noise but fail to catch her. The Germans fire their weapons in the forest, and the Russian soldiers hear the gunfire, assuming Rainer has been killed. The Germans continue searching for her, and when they spot movement in the forest, they capture her and shoot her, spot, and wait for the rest of the team. Then, he decides to move forward with Sputina and Tinov. Later, we return to Rainer, who regains consciousness and finds herself surrounded by German soldiers. She panics and tells them she will reveal everything. Knesh hears a noise in the forest and runs with his team, but they are ambushed by Germans and forced to surrender. A German soldier sneaks up behind Knesh, captures him, and buries him in a pit. However, Knesh tells them he is an officer in the Russian army and shows them a document proving it. The Germans confirm his identity and realize he is on a mission. They interrogate him about the mission, but he refuses to answer, laughing at them and pretending he knows nothing, only waiting for his team in the forest. The Germans decide not to kill him. Meanwhile, Armkov and his team find the soldiers that Knesh was waiting for, along with Belos, who is wounded. Belos tells them that the Germans killed Rainer, but they don't realize she is still alive. Back at the German camp, an officer interrogates Rainer. She tells him that they parachuted into the forest and provides misleading information about their numbers and weapons. She is imprisoned but laughs at them, giving them false information about their true objective, stealing and destroying the missile-launching weapon. Armkov's team continues their journey until they reach a bridge over a river, but they find it destroyed. They decide to change course and continue moving through the forest, only to discover German soldiers guarding another bridge, making it impossible to cross. Armkov has Belos identify the location of the German forces near the river. As they watch, they see a German tank approaching the bridge, carrying the missile launcher. They quickly maneuver and prepare an ambush, attacking the German soldiers on the bridge and killing them. Armkov spots a child running away from the scene and fires at a German soldier in a tower, killing him. They continue shooting at all the German soldiers. The remaining Germans retreat with the missile launcher, and Armkov and his team chase after them, attempting to stop them before they reach the German base. The battle intensifies as Armkov orders Tinov to plant explosives on the German tank. The Germans retreat rapidly and Armkov leads his soldiers back into the forest. A German soldier rushes to report the attack to Officer Lehmann, who is in charge of the missile launcher. Meanwhile, a farmer carrying hay on his cart discovers a young girl named Larissa and her brother Liova, who are fleeing from the Germans. He takes them to his home, where his wife prepares food for them. The children recount the horrors their family endured at the hands of the Germans. Armkov's team sends a signal to their base. Sputina writes the message, informing them they are still searching for the launcher. Meanwhile, the Germans, using their encryption vehicles, detect the transmission coming from the forest. They return to interrogate Rainer, realizing she had deceived them by sending them on a false trail. They beat her, demanding the truth about the mission. Eventually, they learn that the real objective is to steal and destroy the missile launcher. The German commander is immediately informed. Armkov and his team proceed cautiously through the forest, but Belos nearly steps on a landmine. A soldier named Slava pushes him out of the way and gets injured in the leg. The Germans momentarily halt their attack. Sputina quickly tends to Slava's wound, while Armkov orders Tinov to take the radio transmitter to a secure location in the forest and relay their progress to the Russian headquarters. He then instructs Sputina to search for Knesh. Meanwhile, Knesh is held captive by a gang of bandits in the forest. The bandits break into the farmer's house, searching for food and valuables, only to discover Larissa and Liova. Elsewhere, Tinov ambushes 2 German soldiers near the river, stabbing one and drowning the other before stealing their horse. Sputina arrives at Knesh's last known location, but finds only his document, realizing something has happened to him. She leaves the document behind and returns to the team. Armkov moves his soldiers quickly. Meanwhile, Knesh, still held by the bandits, watches in horror as they force Liova to gather firewood, only to shoot him dead. They attempt to assault Larissa, but Knesh, enraged, attacks and kills them all, saving her. Back at Armkov's camp, they spot German soldiers preparing to transport the missile launcher. They notice a local man named Kovek assisting the Germans by guiding them through the terrain. 2 disguised Russian soldiers attempt to infiltrate the German ranks, but are exposed when a German soldier becomes suspicious and alerts the commander. A search of the village reveals a murdered German soldier, confirming the intruder's presence. Meanwhile, Slava, struggling with his injured leg, decides to sacrifice himself by setting up an explosive trap for the Germans. He is killed, but the explosion fails to stop the German advance. The team mourns his loss. Armkov hears the explosion and thinks his soldiers have died. But then, the 2 other soldiers arrive with Kovzik, and he realizes that Slava is dead. After that, Kovzik tells them all the information he knows, and they continue monitoring the German soldiers. At this time, Altinov activates the device and sends the message he was ordered to transmit. Meanwhile, the German encryption vehicle picks up a signal being sent from another location, and the camp commander realizes that the message was transmitted from a distant place. He orders Lehmann, the officer in charge of the missile launcher, to take the device and move quickly. Lehmann instructs his soldiers to drive the vehicle carrying the device immediately. Armkov watches them, and his plan to steal and destroy the weapon is set in motion. The Germans, realizing the weapon is being taken out of the camp, call in Rainer and execute her. Armkov then sends one of his soldiers with explosives to plant them under the bridge that the weapon will cross. The soldier moves underwater using a log to stay hidden and reaches under the bridge. However, a German soldier standing above becomes suspicious of the strange movement beneath. The soldier plants the explosives under the bridge and exits the water still inside the log. The German finds it odd that the log is moving against the current and fires at it. Other soldiers rush over, but the German says he was just making sure no one was in the water. The soldier gets shot in the shoulder, but keeps planting the explosives and drags the fuse with him to the riverbank. At the same time, the Germans take the weapon out of storage to cross the bridge. The soldier gets shot in the shoulder but keeps planting the explosives and drags the fuse with him to the riverbank. At the same time, the Germans take the weapon out of storage to cross the bridge. The soldier quickly goes back under the bridge to connect the fuse to the bomb, but the German soldiers spot him. They stop the vehicle and rush to kill him. He detonates the bridge, preventing them from crossing with the weapon, and dies with the explosion. Armakov and the rest of the team are devastated by his sacrifice. Then we go to Kinch, who is trying to reunite with Armakov and the rest of the team. Armakov decides to attack the Germans and destroy the missile weapon as soon as night falls. Meanwhile, Kinch finds Larissa sitting alone and sad. He gives her his jacket and sits with her, telling her about his family, how he was never liked, and how people used to mock him as a child. He gives her some food, and she starts to fall in love with him too. Back to Saktina, who is sitting alone, sad and afraid of dying. One of the soldiers, named Dustin, sits beside her, and they talk. She tells him how scared she is that her family will be devastated if they hear of her death. Dustin tells her he didn't get to say goodbye to his family before leaving. He shares that his sister is getting married soon, and he's afraid he might die before he gets to attend her wedding. Belos also talks to the soldier next to him about his family, and all of them are afraid they might never see their families again. Night falls, and German soldiers are stationed everywhere to guard the missile weapon. Armakov and his team get ready. He takes his bow and shoots an arrow at the soldier guarding the weapon storage door, killing him. Kovzik breaks down the door, while Saktina and Dustin hide behind cover to protect the rest of the soldiers. They open the door and quickly enter to board the vehicle carrying the device, but the vehicle is broken down. At that moment, a group of German soldiers approaches the storage. Saktina and Dustin open fire on them, killing several. The rest of the German soldiers rush toward the storage and begin shooting at Saktina and Dustin, trying to kill them. Dustin gets shot, but keeps firing at the German soldiers, trying to delay them so the rest can escape. But Dustin gets shot in the chest, and Saktina gets shot in the shoulder. At that moment, they manage to start the vehicle, so Dustin and Saktina detonate a bomb on themselves, killing a group of German soldiers along with them. Armakov and the other soldiers escape with the vehicle. When they see Saktina and Dustin dead, Armakov is devastated. He drives the weapon-carrying vehicle into the forest, and they keep going until dawn, when the vehicle breaks down again. At the same time, the German camp leader arrives at the village where the weapon used to be and discovers it has been stolen. He orders his troops to search the entire forest. Back to Armakov. He and his men push the vehicle and hide it behind a tall hill, but then they realize Kovzik is missing. Kovzik is walking alone on the road when German soldiers see him and capture him, suspecting he's part of the group that stole the weapon. Meanwhile, Armakov and his men cover the vehicle with tree branches to hide it. Armakov talks about how his wife and son were killed when the Germans bombed his city. Then they get out on the road and start firing at the German soldiers to distract them. At that moment, Kinch hears the gunfire and realizes his team is nearby. He wakes up Maskin, and they rush toward the gunfire. Back to Armakov and Belos. They're still fighting and killing German soldiers. Kovzik escapes from the vehicle, trying to get away from the Germans, but the vehicle's tank leaks fuel. Armakov and Belos run out of bullets and lose hope of survival, but then Kinch and Maskin arrive, attacking and killing the German soldiers. Kovzik takes the fuel canister next to him and heads toward Armakov to fuel the vehicle carrying the weapon. But the Germans shoot and kill him. Then Kinch takes Larissa to the farmer who found her in the forest. He gets fuel from him to power the vehicle. He says goodbye to Larissa and returns to Armakov, gives him the fuel, and they start the vehicle and escape. Kinch and Moscow distract the Germans by shooting at them. Armakov and Belos are pursued by a group of soldiers. At the same time, Maskin and Kinch are also being chased. Their vehicle crashes, and Kinch attacks and kills a German soldier with a knife. Armakov and Belos reach a minefield, with German troops behind them and others waiting on the other side, ready to kill them. Armakov and Belos drive into the minefield, and the vehicle explodes with the weapon, killing them both. They succeed in their mission and sacrifice their lives to destroy the stolen device from the Russian army. Kinch is the only survivor of the entire team. He takes Larissa and walks away, and the film ends there.